can tell you firsthand that seeing any form of long-term progress with building some lean muscle tissue takes a while. You're not going to be seeing overnight changes. All these sort of fitness magazines and celebrity workout plans that preach that you can build muscle in 6 weeks, 10 weeks, 12 weeks, whatever it is literally nonsense. It's bullshit. So, welcome back to the YouTube channel. Hope you are doing well. Back in a bit of a different location today. The flat is having some work done, so we've moved things across just to my parents' house to get a bit of work done for the day whilst they're doing what they need to do in the flat. Now, as ever, I'm Jake from Biceps and Banter. If you haven't already, go and find me on Instagram. I'll drop the username below as usual, and you can jump onto there for loads of little short videos, client updates, my own updates with my own training, everything like that. Some really easy little tips and tricks to help you along the way. So if you haven't seen it before, go and check out the page. We are back on the channel today again to help give you the actual fitness advice that you need. No gimmicks, no fads, just simple and effective fitness and nutrition advice that has you focusing on what really matters for results. So today I'm going to be talking to you about the top three reasons why you might not be seeing any progress in the gym as a natural lifter. And by natural lifter, we mean someone who isn't on performance enhancing drugs, steroids, that kind of thing. Because it takes a long time. It's a little bit harder in terms of the amount of time it takes for you to see any kind of progress with building lean muscle tissue or anything like that when you are a natural lifter. It can take much longer to know that you're actually doing the right things and that they're actually making a little bit of a difference. And there's some really basic common things that I see people make the mistake of doing all the time. So we're going to cover them in this video, and I'm going to go through the 3 things that you need to make sure you're nailing if you want to see consistent progress as a natural lifter. But before that, if you enjoy the videos and if you like the kind of content that I'm putting onto the channel, then don't forget, just drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, tell all your mates about it, all that jazz. And if you've got any questions that you want me to answer, any topics that you want me to go through in a bit of detail, just comment them down below, and you never know, it might become the next video on the channel. And with all that being said, let's jump into today's episode. So, natural lifting. As someone who is a natural lifter, never touched performance enhancing drugs, never touched steroids, anything like that, I can tell you firsthand that seeing any form of long-term progress with building some lean muscle tissue takes a while. You're not going to be seeing overnight changes. All these sort of fitness magazines and celebrity workout plans that preach that you can build muscle in 6 weeks, 10 weeks, 12 weeks, whatever it is literally nonsense. You cannot build a significant amount of lean muscle in 12 weeks, okay? You're not going to go from where you are now to Thor in 12 weeks' time. That stuff takes years and years and years of work. And in the cases of Thor, celebrities, people like that, 9 times out of 10, they're not natural either. So you can't expect to end up looking like them. But as someone who is natural and training, you need to be patient, and you need to know that you're in this for the long game and that progress is going to be very slow, and that any results that you do see are going to come after a long period of consistent work and consistent effort, and making sure that you're nailing some pretty basic things that actually, even though they're basic, a lot of people are getting wrong because they're normally following the advice of these old fitness magazines, of these ex-bodybuilders or celebrities who are selling their workouts, who also are telling people the other stuff that they're doing that's helping them along the way, like the performance enhancing drugs, like the steroids, everything like that. And following that kind of advice when it's not suitable to you and your situation isn't going to get you anywhere. So the first thing that we're going to cover, the first thing that you need to try and fix if you're doing this wrong, is your training split. The biggest mistake I see people make, and I made for years and years myself with my own training, was doing this bro style training split where it's chest on a Monday, back on a Tuesday, legs on a Wednesday, shoulders on a Thursday, and arms on a Friday. It is literally pointless. Training your muscle group once a week is not going to get you anywhere long term. And you might look at the Arnolds or the Phil Heaths, the top bodybuilders, anything like that put out workouts in magazines saying this is their training style, this is what got them massive. But you're forgetting the point that A, these guys are professionals at what they do. Okay, so they're probably training more than once a day. So yes, that might be their training split, but they might get through that entire split in 3 days. They might be training 2 or 3 times a day, which means across the week, they're still hitting their muscle groups 2 to 3, maybe even 4 times a week. Second of all, these guys are on a hell of a lot of juice, which is going to mean that they can recover faster and they can grow muscle tissue much, much quicker. You are not going to be able to put up with that kind of demand on your body. You're not going to be able to recover quick enough to keep it going. And number 3, like, are they actually doing this? Just because it says in a magazine, this is their superhero workout or this is their bodybuilding workout, there's nothing to say that they have not actually written that and it's just the editor or the writer that's put that workout in there as an example of what you might be able to do. So don't be hoodwinked into thinking that this is exactly what those guys have been doing to get them to where they're at. What you actually want to try and do, instead of training single body parts once a week, is try and focus on training every muscle group 2 to 3 times a week. Say you're doing 8 exercises on Monday for your chest. That might actually mean doing 4 exercises for chest on Monday and then doing 4 exercises for chest on Thursday. And the benefit of that is going to be is A, you're stimulating your chest twice as much as before, so you're giving it a reason to grow twice as much. But also, if you're a natural lifter and you've done 4 exercises on your chest, if you've done them properly, you should be feeling pretty knackered. You should be feeling pretty fatigued. And actually, your ability to then go and perform these next 4 exercises should be pretty poor, which means the first half of your workout is okay, and the second half is going to be all but pointless. Whereas if you break that session up into 2 and you put that second half later on in the week, you're then going to be going into that workout much fresher, meaning that you can perform those exercises much better, you can get much stronger, and you can see much more progress with them. So it makes complete sense to break down these large, high volume, 1 day per week workouts and break them into 2 separate sessions where you can stimulate that muscle twice as much and you can put much more effort in and progress with those movements that you're doing twice as fast. And if we look across the whole year, it means instead of training your chest 52 times a year, where half of those workouts were good and half of them were poor, you're now training your chest 104 times a year, and every single exercise you were able to put in more effort and grow much more muscle and get much stronger. So then you want to be looking at, okay, well, how can I split this across the week? And that depends on how often you want to go to the gym or how much time you have to go. But you're going to essentially be looking at full body workouts if it's 3 times a week. It might be an upper lower variation for 4 times a week. Or you might be on some sort of push-pull legs, upper lower for 5 times a week. You can vary this and you can play with this depending on the muscle groups that you're wanting to specifically target. There isn't one set way of doing it, but just make sure however you are doing it, it's a nice even split across the week with your muscle groups being hit 2 to 3 times across that week. And one of the common complaints you'll get of people doing this method is they'll say, but I don't feel as sore the next day after doing less volume on my chest on the Monday. So instead of doing the 8 exercises that I would normally do, I've only done 4, and now on Tuesday I don't feel as sore, so I've not worked it as much. Thinking that DOMS is a direct indicator of muscle growth is ridiculous, it's pointless. DOMS is literally an indicator of your body's ability to recover. So just because you're experiencing more soreness the day after your training, that doesn't mean that you've worked that muscle less. It might just mean that your body's in a worse position to recover from the training that you've done, whether that's because you're eating less, you're not sleeping as well, whatever it is. And you'll hear it all the time, right? People will be doing a leg day and be like, oh, it was amazing, I couldn't walk for 2-3 days afterwards. Well, that's not great, especially if you're trying to do something like lose body fat as well, because if you're then struggling to walk for 2 or 3 days after that workout, your steps are going to be down, your expenditure then is going to be down, so the amount of calories you're going to burn is going to be down, meaning your ability to lose body fat is going to be much less. I've had sessions before where I've gone in and had some of the best sessions of my life, and the next day I don't even feel like I've gone to the gym. And that's not a bad place to be in, because it can let you know that your body's in a pretty good place to be recovering from those workouts, which means you're going to be growing at an optimal rate. Okay, reason number 2 is execution and progressive overload. Chances are you're not hitting the muscle that you think you're hitting. So if you see generally those blokes in the gym doing side raises and they're meant to be hitting the side delt, and when you watch them, they're coming up and they're shrugging like this, the hands up above the head, they're not going to be hitting the side delt the way you would want to be hitting it. In fact, the traps are going to be doing most of the work. So you need to make sure that you're actually executing the movements properly and you're actually putting the strain on the muscles that you're wanting to hit, and you're not just relying on momentum and just throwing that weight about to try and get you stronger and build some muscle, because it's not going to happen. We can see it as well in push movements as well. You'll see a lot of blokes doing push movements, and as they get to the top of that movement, the shoulders come forward and they're almost hunched pushing in that position, and they come down and they push like this. Again, their shoulder's going to be taking the brunt of that force, not their chest. So what do you think is going to be potentially growing or just causing them issues? It's going to be their shoulders and not their chest. So you need to spend a bit of time either learning or being taught how to execute these movements properly, so that you're actually stimulating and putting the weight and the tension on the muscle that you're wanting to target. And alongside that, a reason why sometimes execution goes to shit with some people is because they're chasing progressive overload in the form of more weight on the bar. So we know that in order to build muscle, we need to progressively overload it. So essentially, that just means we're exposing it to a stimulus that it can't handle, so it has to grow back bigger in order to handle it next time. But then the problem people make is they automatically assume that means more weight on the bar. So in order to get stronger and build muscle, they have to lift more weight, which usually ends up in them increasing their weights too quickly. and then their form just goes to shit. And that's why you tend to see the shrugging on the side delts, or the shoulders coming in with the pressing, or squatting, doing half reps with a barbell back squat. They're not doing anything there, but because they think they've added some weight onto the bar or onto the carriage, whatever it is, they think they're going to be progressively overloading and building muscle, but they're not, because there's more than one way to progressively overload. It doesn't just come down to weight. In fact, 9 times out of 10, certainly with smaller muscle groups like side delts, like arms, the best way to progressively overload them is to add more reps in, or add more sets in, or hold a squeeze for longer. There is loads of different ways to progressively overload something without adjusting the weight. So don't just fixate on increasing the weight that you're lifting to try and build muscle, and make sure that if it is these smaller muscle groups, if adding 1 rep to your set per week is all you can do, that is still progressive overload, and that is still progress, and chances are you're still going to be able to do it with better form than if you tried to increase the weight, which means you're going to be activating and putting that muscle under the tension that you want to, working that muscle better and building muscle in that area much, much better. So make sure you're not making those 2 mistakes. Train properly, hit the muscles that you're aiming to hit, and when it comes to progressive overload, don't just think about weight on the bar, think about reps, sets, volume, everything like that as well, and make it work for you. And the last one, number 3, is recovery. So this is essentially what you're doing outside of the gym, which is going to have one of the biggest impacts on your ability to build muscle tissue, because you're only going to be able to grow at the rate in which you can recover. You can't grow muscle tissue if your body's still not repaired it from the previous session. You're just going to keep constantly breaking it down and breaking it down, and over time you're going to get weaker and weaker, you're going to feel less energized, you're going to feel less motivated for the gym, and chances are your training is just going to go downhill. So you need to be making sure that outside of your workouts you are doing everything you can to recover properly, and that means nutrition and that means sleep. Making sure you're taking in enough calories and enough protein to give your muscle what it needs to recover from those workouts and come back bigger and stronger. Also making sure that you're sleeping long enough and that your sleep quality is good so that your body has the time to rest and recover. If you're drinking caffeine all day, every day until before you go to bed, and then you're going to bed at midnight, you're getting up at 6 in the morning, you're waking up feeling groggy, you're waking up feeling like crap, chances are your body's not going to be recovering through the night. And then that means you're going into the next workout tired, more reliant on caffeine to get you through that session, which then has a bigger impact on your sleep. And then on top of that, if you're not getting the right calories in, and if you're not getting a good amount of protein in, your body's not even got anything in the first place to start recovering with. So it's not getting the time it needs to recover, and it's not getting the resources it needs to recover, which means it's not going to recover, which means you're not going to grow muscle tissue. So make sure that you are keeping on top of your nutrition, keeping on top of your sleep, making sure you're eating high protein, getting plenty of vegetables in, making sure all these things are in place so that you can recover properly and build lean muscle tissue. That is it. The top 3 reasons you're not growing as a natural lifter. Hope you found this useful. If you enjoyed it, like I said at the start, don't forget, like the video, subscribe to the channel, share it with your mates, all that jazz, and I'll see you in the next video.